Hello and welcome to the Backpacking Podcast. As always, my name is John, and I'm here with my good friend Jeremiah, the man whose beard glows like the morning sun. And we are just so excited today because with us today, Jeremiah.
Yes.
We have a member of hiking royalty with us today.
Tell me about him.
We have a member of hiking royalty. This man is the current FKT holder for the 900 Mile Club in the Smokey Mountains. He's got his own YouTube channel. He's on Instagram. He's been on multiple podcasts recently, and he's also been a part of a movie that came out recently called Highline that was all about the Uinta Highline Trail. He's also a huge advocate for mental health, especially for those dealing with PTSD. He is a fantastic member of the hiking community. I want to welcome to the show Benny Plug It In Braden. So glad to have you here today, Benny.
Hey guys, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Now, do you prefer to be called Benny or Plug It In? Which is the one you prefer?
I'm good either way. I have no preference really.
I know some people. I know when we talked to Darwin, he's like, "My name is Darwin." So we we stuck with that when we talked to him. So I just wanted to make sure. So
yeah.
So speaking of that, we hear that you have a basically you have your own shuttle system where you went and picked up Darwin off of the AT when he had to come off.
Yes. Yeah, whenever he made the choice to get off the trail, he just happened to be in a great spot pretty close to the NOC. And I live exactly 2 hours from the NOC. And so I just went over and picked him up, and he stayed here at the house for about a week or so while we were just trying to figure out what was going to go on with all this. And when it pretty much looked like this wasn't going to end anytime soon, he made the call to go on back home to Arizona and take that risky flight back home. He said that was the scariest thing that he's ever done.
Oh, I can imagine.
And I believe it. I mean, he was sending me pictures. The airport was just vacant, just nobody. And it was really eerie looking. He took some pictures of when he went through Dallas-Fort Worth. And I've been through that airport a number of times, and there's nobody.
That's a big airport.
Just
busy.
That's a big airport too, and it was like a ghost town. That was just so eerie looking.
I can imagine. What's interesting? You know why I know the Dallas airport so well is they have a massage parlor in the airport. I actually got a massage one time because I had like a 3 or 4 hour layover in Dallas, and I went and got a massage during my layover, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
Dude, let me tell you this. I was coming back from Guatemala and had an 8-hour layover in Dallas-Fort Worth and had traveler's diarrhea.
Oh, no.
And took a Finagrin. Finagrin? Is that how you say it?
Sure.
It'll dry you up, man. It knocks you out, too. And I slept in the Dallas Mall for like 4 hours on a bench.
That is crazy.
It's insane, but yeah, it's a huge airport. I can imagine.
Did you have your current beard at that point?
No, man.
Okay.
My wife was with me too. We were coming back from a mission trip, and she was so nice. I just laid my head in her lap and died.
Now,
for like 4
didn't
hours.
you propose to her down there?
Actually, that was in Ecuador.
Ecuador, okay.
Yeah, 2 different trips, but both
Really
long flights.
nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Nice.
So Benny, you are the current FKT holder for the 900 Mile Club in the Smokies. Do you want to fill people in on kind of what that means? Some people may not know what an FKT is, and may not even know what the 900 Mile Club is. Could you kind of explain that a little bit?
Sure. Back in 2017, I did my first FKT, the first 900 miler. It was a winter time, and I was still working like 3 or 4 days a week. So I wasn't the first guy to do it. There was a lady who did it, and I ended up beating her time. But my time was 78 days
Right.
for 900 miles. And I was still working 3 days a week the first month. So afterwards, it went crazy here. I mean, there were probably 100+ people at the hiker celebration at the very end. You have 2 rows of people, and they line up to form a tunnel with their trekking poles, and you walk through it.
That is so
kind of
cool.
it's kind of like a christening, you know, kind of deal. And there's so many people there. I was all over the newspapers, all the local television stations. It was psychotic.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
I couldn't
I didn't
go
know
to
about all that.
Walmart. Yeah, I couldn't go to Walmart or a grocery store without people recognizing me. And I felt embarrassed by it because, I mean, this is like, okay, this isn't what an FKT hike's supposed to look like. I'm not supposed to still be working and out here hiking too.
Yeah, you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I could have done this a lot faster.
yeah, exactly. I'm thinking, good grief, imagine what the publicity would be if I really do one.
Yeah.
So my conscience got the best of me, and later that fall, I decided, okay, I'm going to do it again. This time, I'm going to show you what one looks like.
There you go.
Oh, I like the confidence.
Yeah, so I was able to trim my mileage down. The original time was 78 days, and the total mileage was 944 miles. Now, there's only 800 miles of trail in the park, but it's a trail system, and a lot of them interconnect and intermingle, and you have to backtrack a whole lot. And the average person who does the 900 miler will do roughly in about 1,500 to 2,000 miles, somewhere in that neighborhood. And, you know, the 900 miler is basically when you go in a national park and in the Smokies and you hike all the trails end to end. That's the 900 miler. And the 900 Mile Club is the ones who govern that. The Park Service actually has nothing to do with it. But the 900 Mile Club, they govern it, and they're not really that keen on FKT stuff. They appreciated the publicity that I brought to the club, but afterwards they weren't, you know, just not big fans of it. They feel like it's a negative in the end and kind of makes a mockery of it, I guess. I don't know. I don't put words in nobody's mouth, but we've had a few conversations and, you know, just they'd rather not have stuff like that going on. But, and it's based on the honor system. So it's really tough to, you know, you have to really trust people that they're being honest when they say they're doing or whatever. So GPS tracking is the best route to go to prove that you are where you say you are. That or taking pictures of trailhead, trail signs, you know, it gives, you know, do time and date stamp on your photo so it shows time and date you were there. And, you know, you download those, it can show you a route pretty easy. But
now, did you save your GPX data so that if people wanted to follow the route you took, they could do that? Or did you not save the actual files?
No, those two I did just photographs.
Okay.
Because even though I was shooting just a little bit of video on the go, I chose to just take pictures of trail intersections. Whenever I started at each trail sign, I took a picture, even if I was not turning there or not. This way, if you download those, you can see a progression of route.
And when was this?
The first one was January, February, and March. So I actually started December 31st, if I think that was right. And I finished March 18th.
And what year?
On my first one, 2017.
Gotcha.
And so I went back later, felt guilty, went back later, and that fall I decided to do it again. But this time I stayed in the park, basically, only coming out to get resupplies or whatever. That time I did it in 43 days. My total mileage was 924 miles. I basically used my data from my first hike, and I had a friend who worked at one of the government plants who had a computer program, and he was able to get a hold of the park's trail data and overlap that and then put my data on top of that. And it showed me how to reconfigure my routes to the most efficient way where I was hiking too much here whatever. So that's how I was able to trim up mileage. And in that time period, the park had actually opened up several trails from the fires that were closed during my first hike. So I actually had more mileage to hike.
Is that when Gatlinburg and all that caught fire? Is that
Yes.
what you're talking about? Okay.
Yep.
I remember that.
Yep. Yeah, that was Thanksgiving weekend of 2016. Actually, me and Chad Poindexter of Sticks Blog were up on top of Mount LeConte watching this fire get bigger and bigger at the chimneys.
Wow.
Yeah, we stayed at the shelter there, and the last night we were there, we could see 40-foot flames shooting up, and we made the call to go ahead and come off the mountain and get out of there. But we knew what the weather forecast was. The weather forecast was for high winds, and high winds and fire do not mix, especially in a dry season. 2016, there was like a major drought in the area. So fires were popping up everywhere. So we were pretty intent on getting out of there. And unfortunately, a couple of days later, it got ugly.
Yeah, it did.
And quite a few people died.
Yep, I remember that very well.
I remember I was actually looking to my wife and I had started our big boy jobs. Like, it was our first full year of actually making money. We graduated college, and I was like, let's take a little Christmas vacation, just the two of us, for like 4 or 5 days in the Smokies. We've been in the Smokies quite a bit because we grew up in southern Kentucky. And I remember they had, like, I booked a cabin. I accidentally actually booked the wrong one. And after I got the confirmation, I was like, oh, this is the second cabin. I was wanting to book the first one. And then, like, that weekend was whenever all this stuff was burning down. They took this massive hit. We actually still ended up being able to go, but the infrastructure, like, very little shopping. There was absolutely no internet or cable to the cabin. It was just us isolated.
Yeah, it was pretty wild how the fire just and to kind of be fair, the fires that were actually inside Gatlinburg, those were mostly from down power lines where trees had fell and ripped power lines down. Of course, when they spark, they pick up fires or start fires. But some of the fire from the Smokies, from the chimneys, did leave the park, even though the government's little report says it didn't. There's several sections of the trail that walk along the border that did catch fire.
Yeah.
And the structures that were right against the border are no longer standing.
Wow.
So it did indeed exit. But it was so wild to see, the aftermath, any southwest facing ridge, the rhododendrons were burnt all the way down to the root. I mean, it was like a blowtorch coming in through there.
Yeah, my wife. I was gonna say, my wife and I were down there maybe a month or two before that happened, and we were down there for our anniversary. And I remember, when it all went down just a few months later, and just the two of us looking at each other, going, "What in the heck happened?" It was just, we couldn't believe just how devastated the area was.
Yeah, that fire, I mean, whenever it was blowing, out of the park, it would hit those northwest or southwest facing ridges like a blowtorch, burn everything, all the way down to the root. And as soon as it would top over the ridge, it would almost use it as a ramp. And it would jump to the next ridge. And so you get on the opposite facing ridge, there'd be no damage at all. I mean, leaves would still be on the ground. None of it would be burned. So it's pretty wild to hike along some of those trails like Baskins Creek and some of those trails like that, or show you that very evident of that kind of damage. So it was really wild just to kind of see that. And even in downtown Gatlinburg, some buildings caught fire and some buildings didn't, and it would like skip and jump and hop around. And it was pretty wild to see what was burnt and what survived.
I wonder, like, You know how stuff burning, it will it'll turn the soil more fertile in the future. I wonder how well the new growth did after that. I mean, it's terrible that people lost their lives, and it was devastating for the community and the economy down there. But I wonder how long. I often wonder, like, especially with logged out places. Like, I see the smaller trees. There's not really a whole lot of stuff big in Kentucky like there is in some of the places out west that haven't been completely logged out. I wonder how fast it takes for all that to just replenish itself.
I know within a year, new rhododendrons are already growing. So
Wow.
I haven't been back on some of the trails since, but in that area, but you can see it from the road that it's getting really lush and doing really well.
Yeah, but for you, what that meant was once there was trails that weren't accessible, and then whenever you go back, you're trying to, you almost cut your time in half, right? But you had to up the mileage. And I say it also helped you that since you weren't like going back to work multiple days, you could actually stay out there. That actually saves some backtracking as well.
Oh, a ton. And I had actually kind of routed my routes to where I would either come out to a road or near a campsite. See, in the Smokies, you just can't camp anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to camp at designated campsites, and you have to have backcountry permits for that site. So they're pretty strict about that too, and they don't want you to sleep in your car inside the park or anything like that. I'm not going to say I did or didn't do that, but I will say that I did stay at campsites where I did not have permits for, because my route ended up, I was able to push for a little bit more mileage.
Right.
I was doing a little bit better. But as soon as I got cell service, because there's no cell service in the park, I was able to give the Park Service backcountry office a call and say, hey, just letting you guys know, I ended up staying here instead of here. This is what happened. Just want to, because they're keeping up with their numbers, how many people stay at each campsite.
Right.
So I didn't want their numbers to be skewed. And so I'm trying to help them out a little bit. And I appreciate them being a little bit flexible with me, which they usually aren't. And it was kind of funny. Another side story. I was doing the Benton Mackay last year, and the Benton Mackay goes to the Smokies.
Yeah.
And I was actually on my way down on my last day, coming down Baxter, and I ran into a couple rangers. I won't say their names. Don't want to get them in trouble, but I come across the rangers, and I know them really well, and we're sitting there chit-chatting, and one of them says, well, we have to ask you. It's part of the job. I said, sure, no problem. Here's my permits. I said, and I did not stay at a single location on that paper. And there was like a list. I mean, this was like 4 or 5 days worth of like campsites. I said, I didn't stay at a single one. And I said, but as soon as I get cell service, I'm going to call the backcountry office and let them know where I did stay. I said, I ended up just coming in faster and hotter than what I thought I was going to. And, it's kind of hard, especially with the Benton Mackay. They don't have like a through hiker permit like they do the A2.
Right.
And whenever someone's through hiking the A2, they can pretty much stay at any shelter along the Appalachian Trail going through the Smokies. You don't have to reserve or nothing like that. But with the Benton Mackay, they don't have that. So you have to like reserve your individual campsite along the Benton Mackay.
That's a lot of work, man.
Yeah, it's inconvenient.
That's a lot of work. That's a huge amount of work and really tough to kind of calculate and figure out. And especially if you're trying, because when you're doing that, you're trying to reserve your spot.
Right.
And you can only reserve your spot 30 days out. And, within 30 days, you can do your reservation. And it's one of those situations where I was afraid that some of those campsites are pretty popular.
Right.
And that I wouldn't be able to stay there. So I booked mine out before I even started the Benton Mackay. And then I, hiked 200 miles to get to the Smokies, basically So a lot can happen during that time. You move faster, you may move slower, whatever the case may be.
Now, am
But
I
my
right? Am I right in saying that the Benton MacKay starts basically where the AT starts and loops east of it and then joins back up? Is that right with the AT at the end?
Yeah, basically the AT and the Benton MacKay both start on Springer Mountain.
Yeah.
The Benton MacKay's southern terminus is about 1/10 of a mile from the official terminus of the AT.
Okay.
But they're really close together. And so basically the Benton MacKay jumps off of the AT there, and they'll actually zigzag each other a few times before they actually make it to the Smokies.
Yeah. That's
And
crazy.
so that's pretty cool. And a lot of people they have like a loop where some people will hike the Benton MacKay through the Smokies, turn around and come back via the AT or vice versa.
Also, just
And
make it kind of a 600-mile kind of thing.
yeah, yeah,
That's crazy.
a lot of people do that. And one of these days I'd like to do that. That'd be a pretty cool route.
So, how many long trails have you done at this point? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I've done the long trail, goes through Vermont. Most of the trails I've done have been, somewhere around 200-300 miles, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's hard for me to get away from work
Right.
for much longer than about 3 weeks. I'm fortunate that I own my own business, that I'm able to take the time off, but it's a risk because, are your customers going to wait on you, or are they going to just go somewhere else?
Right. Right.
So I do have some of that, and I do lose a little bit of money whenever I do that. But I've done the long trail, the JMT out in California, the Uinta Highline, the Benton MacKay, the Foothills Trail. I've done the TGO, which goes, it's a race across Scotland. So our route was about 220 miles long. And then just did a 90-mile hike in Turkey along the Black Sea, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And I've done the Ocean to Lake Trail in Florida and some sections of the Florida Trail. And way back when, in 2015, I section hiked the first 500 miles of the Appalachian Trail.
Very cool.
And some of those sections I actually did twice because I went through and took pictures, and then I had friends that seen them. They're like, "Oh, I want to go." So that means I got to do it again.
So let me ask you this, because you do a lot of these longer hikes and things like that. What is your favorite part about backpacking? What is your favorite thing about it?
The simplicity. All I have to do is get up and walk. I don't have to do anything else. I just walk. And it gives me plenty of time to just kind of have that alone time to just think, to pray, to, spend that time with my creator, to just ponder life's questions, and also clean off my desk. As you guys mentioned, I'm a big advocate for, PTS awareness and first responders. I was an EMT for many years, firefighter, rescue diver, and I struggle with that. Been very open about that struggle, and the best way I would describe it to people is I have a desk in my head, and it's all piled up and messed up like everybody else's desk is. And whenever I'm out hiking, it gives me a chance to kind of clean my desk off. I can pull an image off that top of that desk and just kind of try to deal with that a little bit, whether it's praying about it or whether it's just trying to figure out some answers or just trying to come to peace with it most of the time, or just different events in my life. So it allows me to just kind of do stuff like that. And I don't have to really think about work. I don't have to think about what's going on at home or whatever.
Yeah, get to relieve the stresses of life a little bit.
Yeah.
I love the disc analogy. That's
Yeah, me too.
awesome. That's what happens
Yeah.
to me. I went not too long ago with a couple, and it was me, my wife, and this couple, and they were wanting to do the AT this year. It kind of fell in place for them. They were going to do a flip flop. They couldn't start until I believe July, and I was like, oh, that'd be super cool. And they had bought quite a bit of gear for it, and this is before this whole pandemic thing, and I was like, let's go out so you can actually try out some of this gear before you get on trail, and then you have to switch it out. Like, you need to switch it out now while you're working, not while you're working on reserves. And we went out, and I was walking with them, and I was like, don't you just love how simple everything is, and that we've been walking today for 5 or 6 hours, and the only thing you have is your footsteps and your thoughts. Like, yeah, you can listen to music and stuff, but, what other time in your life do you ever have where you have nothing to do but think? And it just it lets you consider things that you never even think about and come to peace with things that you kind of push away. And I don't know, I love it.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I enjoy the opportunity to create as well, whether it be photography or videography, to kind of share what I'm seeing, sharing what I'm seeing through my lens.
Yeah.
And try to do it in a manner that maybe is a little bit different than what maybe most people are doing. I'm kind of in a transition with my videography stuff to change from a trail vlog style type videos like I did with the JMT or the Benton Mackay or something like that, to doing something a little bit different that, I'm really inspired by Panda.
Yeah.
And Panda, Darwin, and there's another girl that did the PCT, I think, last year. She did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, Lena
Me and
Osborne.
Darwin, me and Darwin sat and watched her YouTube channel. I forget exactly what her name is. I follow her on Instagram now in YouTube. But man, just the way she shared it was almost like it was like telling a love story. It's like telling a love story of a trail, and it just makes you want to continue to watch.
Yeah.
And you don't get bored with it. You don't. It's like just the way it's brought to you. It just makes you like it.
Yeah, it's like a book in video form. It was.
Yeah.
So I think her trail name was Tip Tap, but her name
was
Alina Osborne. I got in touch with her because I was like, I am absolutely loving what you're doing. Like, your storytelling is next level. But I mean, it wasn't her first rodeo. Not to take anything away from her. I did a little research. She's done some different journals and articles and other videography. So she did a fantastic job. But it really inspired me, and I started to try to do videos like that too.
Yeah, she's just good at telling a story, and I think that's what connects people. I don't think it's for us when we're hiking and we're doing these longer trails, these longer days. We're connecting with the trail, but people who are watching a video, they aren't going to connect with the trail. They're going to connect with the story about the trail, and she does a killer job of just telling that story.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, she brought it up next level. And, I had started watching Panda's stuff whenever he was out there doing the PCT. And I felt like he was next level.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my goodness, dude, this is like crazy. And I met Panda when he was through hiking the AT. He was actually standing at Newfound Gap in the pouring rain, wearing like a Z-Pax pointy hat. And I was coming back from Bryson City Outdoors over in Bryson City. I was coming back home. It was right after trail days too. And I came over the gap, and there he was. And I rode down my window, and I still had my Z-Pack shirt on and stuff because I was up there helping those guys out with trail days. And he's like, "Your team Z-Packs." I was like, "Give me a ride, bud." And He's like, yeah, I'll jump in the back. I said, no, you're jumping in the front. He goes, but I'm wet. I said, I don't care. And took him into town, got him a good meal there at Smokey Mountain Brewery, and took him to his hotel and arranged for him to get a ride the next morning because I got quite a few friends there around the Smokies. And got him back to the trail, and me, got a letter from his family, thanking me and for taking care of him. Yeah, just so me, Panda, and his family have stayed in touch, and just good people.
Yeah, I first found Panda on Second Chance's video.
Yeah, because
Second Chance was out there, and he had just run into Panda, and they ended up hiking together for several miles, and it was like a serious bromance going on between those two guys.
It's awesome.
And but I ended up going to his channel by watching Second Chance's video and just binge watching Panda's videos, and he's so good. He's so good. Yeah. There's a reason why Darwin picked him to help him with the AT or the into the Great Southwest.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he asked him for that.
And that's another funny story. Okay, here's one of these 6-degree kind of deal stories. All right, I pick up Panda, and we become friends. Of course, me and Chris Mead, Outmersive Films are good friends.
Which Highline is phenomenal, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Phenomenal.
I feel like a geek in it. Or a dork. I just, I wasn't used to people putting the camera in my face. And every time we would wake up or something, you couldn't even open your eyes, and Chris would be there with the camera in your face, like, say something. It's like, how do you feel? It's like, get out of my face.
That's how I feel right now.
It's like, okay, then you're sitting here trying to come up with something to say or something witty to say. So he did a phenomenal job on that. And I just feel grateful for that opportunity to share my story on that kind of a stage.
Well, and you were there with kind of one of the OG YouTubers with Redbeard. Which I've followed him for quite a while too, and kind of miss him. He hasn't been online. I haven't seen any new stuff from him in a while, but it was kind of cool hearing his story, hearing your story. Who was the older gentleman that was with you guys on that? I'm forgetting his name.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, his story. Wow. Just the stories about you guys and just getting kind of an inside look of who you were as people. Great video or great movie. Great movie.
Yeah. So, thank you so much. Okay, so Chris is getting ready to do another project, or looking at possibly doing another project. So he's assembling a team. And me and Panda, we've stayed in touch, and Panda sent me videos and said, hey, man, what do you think about this? So he's kind of honing in his editing styles a little bit. And when I found out Chris is doing this project, I hollered at Chris. I'm like, listen, you need to hook up with Panda, because this guy's got some skills that I think could benefit Outmersive Film or whatever. So in this process, Darwin is also invited to that little project. And, in the end, Darwin and Panda end up connecting and saying, hey, let's do this together. And that's how the Great Southwest kind of came to pass a little bit with those two guys. And if you've not seen that film, I think that one is just phenomenal.
It's so good.
Good. I make several cameo appearances in it.
You're the last person in it, aren't you? At the very end?
I'm in it a few other times, but I am the very last person that's in it.
Yeah.
Whenever the bug was attacking him.
It was phenomenal too.
So good.
We went out in December and did a 50-mile section hike. And so he took us to a section that involved climbing up Mount Micah and going through the Sonora Desert and all this other stuff. So it was really diverse. And, sections you're in the desert, everything's trying to kill you. Next thing you know, you're up on side of a mountain that all of a sudden there's trees. And it looks like you're on the PCT, because there's giant, there's big redwoods, and then you go over that mountain that's 8,000 feet, and you drop off the other side, and it looks like you're in the Smokies because you're in these like green tunnels.
Wow.
It's like I've never been on a sectional trail that was that crazy. And then you drop down way low, and you're going through these little prairies and stuff, and it's almost like you're going through parts of the Florida Trail.
Well, and there's desert too, right?
Yeah, that's the Sonora part. Yeah, that was the first part that we went through with all the tall cactus and everything that wants to sting and kill you.
Well, I want to ask your advice because my progression kind of went like this. My first ever overnight backpacking was from Fontana Dam to, it was supposed to be come out at Klingman's Dome, but I fell in love with hanging out with these thru hikers and hiked on with them to Newfound Gap and just hung out, showed them around Gatlinburg. And I was like, man, this is amazing. And then I went on and later on did some small stuff. I did the JMT in Big South Fork, and that was like 3 or 4 days. And then did the Foothills Trail and did the Long Trail. And I'm a teacher, so I have a couple months off in the summer every year. So I'm on the lookout, and I looked at the Florida Trail. My wife actually wants to move to Florida and from Kentucky. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. No, I mean, no offense to the Florida Trail, no hate on them. It looks pretty wet. It looks like I could be walking through some knee or waist high swampy.
Yeah.
And I was like, the Arizona Trail looks really cool too. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to move to Florida. And I love Florida. I mean, my buddy Matt, he lives there in Melbourne, and I
have family in Melbourne.
At least.
I have family in Melbourne.
Melbourne's awesome.
Yeah, I've been in Melbourne a lot. So
yeah, I go to Melbourne probably about twice a year.
Okay.
Z-Pax is based out of Melbourne, so
Really?
I usually go over to the shop. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Next time I go down there, I'm gonna have to go check out the shop.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. It's a pretty big place now.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's hot, it's humid, and there's a lot of mosquitoes. That's Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, and as far as if you're in town, then there's just so many people that
just a lot of people.
You just want to stab somebody. It's too many people.
So what you're saying is with the whole PTS thing, you don't want to go to Florida.
That's exactly right. But I'll tell you, in around Thanksgiving, whenever we did the Ocean to Lake Trail, which is like 70-something miles long, it's a good representation of what you're going to look at if you were to do a Florida Trail thru hike.
Okay.
Dude, I loved it. I mean, my feet were wet 90% of the time. We were going through stuff that was up to our knees. We went through a couple swamps. We were spread out a little bit, probably about a mile between everybody. So I went through some swamps by myself. Wasn't really like spooked out about it. Gators aren't going to mess with you.
Really?
They might be a little curious, but they're not going to like screw with you too much. But,
I don't know, man.
But the water moccasins, they may have something to say.
Yeah,
but I didn't.
That's all scary.
I didn't come across any, and I was a little bit worried about it. You going through like really brackish, murky water at times. But it wasn't too bad. I enjoyed it. I still haven't yet edited any of those videos. Matt, he has his videos up from that trip. They turned out really good. And what was really cool about that trip, Jupiter lives not too far from there. And he actually he guided us on that hike.
Yeah, I saw
and
that. He's done it.
Yeah, he's done it like 22 times.
I was to say,
or
he knows that place like at the back of his hand.
Yeah. So we lucked out by going down there, and he was our tour guide for that trail. And then I come home a couple days later, fly out west, and then Darwin's my tour guide on the Arizona Trail. So it's like, okay, how do you look up and get this kind of like
that's great
catered? Yeah, and actually the trip out west, we were actually supposed to do a rim to rim to rim
Wow.
for the Grand Canyon, but the North Rim was iced up
You
pretty
don't want to be
good.
on that in
And
the ice, man.
yeah, yeah, they told us that it probably wouldn't be a good idea. So we drove down to Tucson and down below there to do a section hike.
That's
But yeah,
awesome.
that was kind of cool. But yeah, the whole Darwin Panda deal, y'all can take me. It's okay.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
awesome,
draw.
man.
I'll tell you, those two together are just crazy
It's
good.
magic, man. It's magic.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
okay, tell us a little bit about your whole campaign for PTS, because that's been a big thing for you. I've noticed a lot of your Instagram posts about it, and just it's really inspiring how you have taken this on. Can you kind of give us a little bit about that?
sure. I was a EMT, firefighter, rescue diver, mixture of all three, for a total of a little over like 11 to 12 years, somewhere in that neighborhood. Also taught swiftwater rescue for the state's rescue college, State of Tennessee's rescue college, and that also made up the emergency response team. So if you had a local town, you had some flooding issues, and your local departments couldn't handle that, like your fire department might not have the equipment to handle that kind of emergency, you guys would call us. We would go in, deal with it, rescue the people that need to be rescued, or help recover the people who need to be recovered, and we would go on to the next place or whatever. But we also taught police, fire, rescue, EMS how to do rescues in flood stage kind of water. But yeah, I did that for a pretty good while, and actually retired out, and really didn't have any major issues until a little while, like 3 years after that. And then I went through a personal traumatic experience. I had a relationship that ended abruptly, unannounced, and um, it sent me into a down spiral. It sent me into a deep depression. I ended up attempting suicide during that time, and
Wow.
um, slowly was able to get back on my feet by grace of God. He wasn't done with me, and I appreciate that.
We all appreciate that.
And yeah, and so a couple of years later, I got into another relationship, and it seemed like everything was fine, but unbeknownst, I was being, I started having all these like fits of rage,
Mm.
and just something wasn't right. Shortly after we got married, I noticed something wasn't right, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. And essentially, I was being triggered via arguing, or arguments or whatever would trigger me into an episode. But once I'm into an episode, then we're on for a ride.
Oh yeah.
We're dealing with flashbacks, nightmares, different things of that nature. So I would go sleep in my truck for a couple of days, you know, black out cover up my windshield and everything, and just sit in my truck in total silence and darkness for like 2 days, in order just to calm me back down. And once I was calmed down, it was like it never happened. I was good to go. But that went on and on and on and on for like 6 years. And I just really never like put my finger on what was like causing all this. And because I mean, I enjoyed being married. I was very happy. In my opinion, I was very happily married. I put a lot into that relationship. But in the end, it wasn't the right thing for me. We didn't mesh well. I guess probably the best way to put that. And I was being triggered, and it wasn't good for me.
Mm-hmm.
So my last, I got connected with, and actually, you know, I tried to share my story, you know, with people via my blog and YouTube and everything else, you know, about PTS and first responders, and just sharing my personal experience with it, just in case there's somebody that's dealing with it that's not really sure what they're dealing with. Because I actually dealt with it for 3 years before I actually knew or was diagnosed. And I just thought I was just going mad or crazy, or I was just becoming an ugly person. I had no idea what was going on. And, but once I was diagnosed, you know, I kind of kicked it in high gear of sharing my story, because I've noticed that every time I shared it, I felt a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know, it was like getting something off my chest. So every time I share it, it gets a little bit easier. And obviously, as life goes on, your story changes, and mine's changing. You know, unfortunately, I'm in the middle of a divorce right now, so um, I hate that. It's not a choice that I chose, but um, in the end, it's been the best thing for me, because I am at day 187.
I was gonna say, I remember you were creeping up on 200 days, man.
Yeah, yeah, it's like crazy how many days I've gone PTS episode free. And the crazy thing to the whole thing is my last episode was October 8th. Now, I had gone to my first class of Reboot. Reboot Recovery is a nonprofit organization based out of Middle Tennessee that assists veterans, first responders, and their families who are struggling with mental traumas like PTS. And it's free. They provide childcare. They feed you. You know, there's no excuses why you shouldn't be going. And they want the whole family to go, because it's important for the spouses to understand what, you know, the first responder or military member is dealing with. And you know, and that was probably one of the contributing factors to my relationship, is that she just didn't understand what I was dealing with, or why my response was the way it was, or whatever. But so I actually got connected with Reboot because of Brian Ford up in Pennsylvania with Hike by Faith Outdoors. And we were going to be doing this hike called LHX 2020. And we're raising money and awareness for Reboot Recovery and Mission 22. And unfortunately, COVID happened, and that hike has been canceled, which was scheduled for May. But we're still figuring out different ways that we can still do things to help Reboot Recovery and Mission 22. So, but anyways, I got introduced to Reboot through Brian, and I got in touch with my local Reboot people. And before it was over with, I actually got to meet the co-founders of Reboot, Evan and Jenny Owens, over in Middle Tennessee. Great people. I've gotten to know them really well. Got to meet with them quite a few times and just communicate with them off and on here and there. And their mission of just helping veterans and helping first responders is just, it's hard enough to get behind something like that.
Yeah, I would say so.
Especially when you relate to it like you do. So that's how I kind of came about of, you know, I just want to help others, because, you know, I don't think I could, I mean, I have reached out to my local departments, my local fire department and rescue squad and all that, amidst all this chaos, and said, hey, you get shorthanded, holler at me, I'm there.
Yeah.
Call me back in, I'll be there. You know, so, I mean, I'll do it if I have to do it, but it's not something I'm just going to just go and do. You know, not every job you're going to see trauma, you know, not every call. but and I think I could still handle the calls that deal with trauma now that I have a better coping mechanisms. Now that I know how to deal with that trauma and understand it better,
And you have a
I
good
feel like
support
I could.
system. You have a good
Oh,
support
there's
system underneath you.
no question, no question.
Yeah.
I feel like I could easily do that job again if I chose to. But it's just one of those things that you have to get to that point though. You have to like learn how to understand what you're dealing with, and that's what Reboot Recovery does. Is they help you understand what kind of trauma are you dealing with, and how's it affecting you, how's it affecting your soul. Because if you think about it, your soul is damaged when you're exposed to just certain types of trauma. Whenever you see something and you hear someone say, "It just shook me," I'm in shock. There's more going on there than just mental.
Yeah.
Mental trauma. There's a lot more going on there, especially when you're exposed to it repeatedly. Every few days, like I was. But that's a job I would do again in a heartbeat.
So, did you discover backpacking and use that as a tool in your tool belt to deal with the trauma, or were you already backpacking before and now you just use it, like you said, to help clear some of that metaphorical disc?
Yeah, I was already backpacking a little bit before, but I had gotten away from it. Like in my early 20s, in my late teens and early 20s, I did a little bit of backpacking. Matter of fact, we were talking about the Big South Fork. My senior year, spring break, everybody's heading down to Panama City to party it up. I'd go to Big South Fork to do a backpacking trip. So that was already instilled in me a long time ago. My grandparents lived at the very edge of the Cumberland Mountains as it drops down into Tennessee Valley. And I remember just standing on the side of their property, which had like a bunch of cliffs just bordering it. And you could look across the Tennessee Valley and see the Smokies on a low humidity day. And, just playing along the rocks, and me and my cousins would cut in all these little trails to all these little outcrops and different things like that. And so I spent a lot of time in the woods growing up. And
That's
so
awesome.
I already knew how at peace I was there. So I got into, in my early 20s, got into backpacking, got out of backpacking, started doing rescue work, and rescue work pretty much engulfed my life all the way into my low mid 30s. And got out of rescue work and started turkey hunting, and did that for quite a few years. And once I was out there doing turkey hunting a lot, I was like, remembered all the times backpacking. So that's how I kind of fell back into backpacking in roughly 2015 when I got back in there. And actually what triggered me into that is one day I was watching YouTube and came across Will's videos, his AT videos, and I binge watched them. Every one of them, just boom, boom, boom. And I was like, man, that guy's cool, and all this other stuff. I had no idea at that time that, okay, I would be friends with not only him, but the guys at Z-Packs, and, and make all these connections with people, across the hiking industry. I find that just amazing.
It's interesting too how that works, because it's a big community, but it's a small community.
That's exactly what I was
You know what I mean?
say.
Like there are a lot of people that backpack, but it's easier to communicate with each other and connect with each other than people realize. Because I'm the same way. I started a YouTube channel in 2018, and it was literally just started to track my Sheltowee Trace hike. That was the only point of it. It was for my buddies to see it, and through chance meetings with other YouTubers, decided to do other stuff with the channel, and through that I've been able to meet you and guys like Dan Becker, and I've gotten a chance now to talk with Darwin, and Jeremiah and I have become friends, and there's this huge network of us that have become friends. And if you'd asked me 2 years ago if that would have happened, I'd have been laughing because I've been like, I'll never get to know those people, But it's such an interesting community. The backpacking community is way more accessible than probably any community I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I just, for me, I feel a little dumbfounded by it sometimes. Whenever we were doing these hikes and, Will would be with us, or I would go down to the shop and I'd just walk in the door.
Yeah.
At the Z-Pack shop. Now I just think it's kind of funny, to how things really are in reality to where I thought things were.
Right. Everybody's just people.
How unobtainable. Yeah, people are just people.
They're just people.
And it doesn't matter if they own, companies or like Z-Packs or Goose Feet or whatever. They're just people, and I think that's just one of the things, one of the elements I think that we just kind of overlook.
And a big part of the backpacking community that I have to talk to you about, because I talk about this with everybody who comes on the podcast. How do you maintain that amazing beard of yours?
Well, if I can keep my hands off of it, it'll grow pretty good. A lot of times I just get impatient or get nervous, and I'll just start like pulling on my beard, running my fingers through it or whatever. It's like, stop. Keep your hands off of it so it will grow.
I mean, your beard is impressive.
He's got a good looking beard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Darwin's got a good beard. We were talking with him about it because everybody who comes on who has a beard, we talk about the beard. But yours in particular is pretty iconic when it comes to you. I mean, everybody, if you ever cut that beard off, I don't think anybody'd know who you were.
Nobody would have a clue. And actually, we were laughing about it. We were talking about that whenever me, Darwin, and Matt were on the Arizona Trail. And I told him, I said, because Darwin was talking about, if he had changed his appearance, how nobody would have a clue, who he was. And I basically said the same thing. I said, actually, for a moment, I was actually thinking about cutting my beard. And there's like, no, do not do it.
Yeah, don't do that.
No, it's not happening.
I want to do it, man. Mine's getting close to 5 inches.
That's not long enough.
Yeah, nice.
Well, I mean, I just been letting it grow. I mean, that's the only thing. Like, that's the key to the beard. And when it started getting longer, Jason Helmendaler sent me a beard oil that he makes at home. And before I was using some like Honest Amish beard butter or something like that. I don't know. But he sent me some balm as well. And he said, put the oil on in the morning, put the balm on before you go to bed. Now, I've been using that, and it's a lot softer conditioning it. But I think I want to shave it.
No. I've been talking to him about this. I think this is just a bad. Mr. Plug It In, sir. Would you please convince this man that is a bad idea?
Yeah. Shaving is not. Matter of fact, go home and throw your razors away.
Thank you.
Just throw them away. They're useless. Yeah, I mean, for myself, I've got a good friend that lives down in the next county below me. He owns Tennessee Beard Company, and they've been a sponsor of mine for a couple of years now, and pretty good guys. He makes a really good beard oil and stuff like that. Just makes it out of his home.
Do you know what his name is?
Yeah, Chris Reed.
Okay, I'm thinking somebody else, but
yeah, he lives down in Dayton.
That's cool. We'll have to check that out. See, the thing is, I'm jealous of you guys that grow these phenomenal beards and everything. I basically have like 90% neck beard is what I have. Like, it just doesn't grow as nice as you guys do. So whenever I see these beautiful, big, bushy beards, and then I watch one of my videos and realize how scraggly mine looks, I have a lot of beard jealousy, just to be honest with you. I struggle with it.
A lot of people don't know that I did win a beard contest back in 2016.
Really?
Yeah, I entered, and that's whenever my beard was like not even nowhere near as big as it is now. Um, that was for Can You Handlebar Beard Company, and I won the popular vote. So they had like three categories, and I was going on my social media and saying, hey, go vote for me, go in here and vote daily, and you could vote once a day or something like that. And so I just had everybody going on there voting, and next thing I know, I won, and I won like $500 in like beard oil and balm, and another like $2,000 in prizes, like this fancy watch and this
Wow.
leather bomber jacket. Dude, it was like crazy the stuff they were sending me.
So what you're telling us is you are not only hiking royalty, but you're also beard royalty. Like
Yeah,
you're like high class. You're probably the most high class person we've had on the show.
it's like award winning. I can put that next. I should put that on my bio. I should put that on my bio on my Instagram. Award winning. And just leave it. Just
I think
drop
you
the mic
should.
up
I think
there.
you should. That's needed to be on there.
Have you ever bumped into Austin Langford? He lives in Middle Tennessee.
I have not.
Okay, he's got like a small YouTube channel that's just dedicated to places that people could day hike in Middle Tennessee. And I went and hung out with him one time outside of Nashville at one of their like I don't know, suburbia little parks, and done a little hiking, made some videos. And his beard, I'm talking literally down to his knees. And he said,
Nice.
not one day goes by. I say, you ever think about shaving it? He's like, all the time. And I was like, why? Yeah. He said, not one day goes by that somebody doesn't stop me in the grocery store. They said they'll pull up next to his vehicle and ask him to roll down the window so they can ask him about his beard.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm always going somewhere and someone will say, nice beard, man. And actually, no, this is true story. This is true story. Okay. Just about every year I go to Winter Jam. It's it's basically a Christian concert where they have like different artists. You can get in for like $10.
Yeah, I was supposed to go in Cincinnati, but they canceled it because of COVID.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to Chattanooga, and they closed it like 2 days prior.
Oh, that stinks.
Same.
Yeah, and I just bought like the Winter Jam Nation, so you kind of get in the door early and all that. Yeah, but anyways, they told me I could use it next year.
Nice.
But anyways, cool story. Okay, we go to Winter Jam, and after the show, all the artists will be up, and you can go and get your autograph and, pictures with them and all this other stuff. Very approachable and stuff like that. So I'll go up, and I'm a big rock and roll guy. And so Red was there that year. So I'm standing there just watching off to the side. I'm not even standing in line, just watching these guys sign autographs and pictures. And they're down to their last person, and they're putting things up, and I'm just sitting there, just chilling, not being like a stalker kind of deal, not like
trying not to be a creeper.
Not trying to be creeping on Red, but sit there, and my son, he's like, Dad, go, and my kids, they were all like, go say hey. I'm like, I don't want to do that. That seems cheesy. I said, no, go do it. So I walk up. I say, hey guys, great show. Really love your music. And I shook their hand, and the lead singer said, he said, that's a rockin' beard, man. I love it.
Oh,
the following year, he grew a beard. It was like this massive beard, and he still has that beard today. So I like to tell everybody I inspired Red to grow a beard.
You're inspirational on multi fronts.
And John Cooper, because I've seen John Cooper, and then he grew his beard big. So
have you had a chance to meet John Cooper, the lead singer of Skillet? You're talking about the lead singer of Skillet, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Funny story. I know John Cooper. I used to live in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where he lives, and I was going to see. It was when Star Wars came out with the newer movies. You remember the technically episodes 1, 2, and 3. And I was at one of those movies. I can't remember which one, but I was standing in line, and there were tons. It was back when you couldn't reserve seats, obviously, so there was huge lines. And standing next to me in the line next to me was John Cooper wearing a Darth Vader T-shirt. And we ended up talking for the entire time until we got in. And then it just ended up being this thing where we would run into each other all the time in town. He is genuinely one of the nicest guys in the world.
Yeah.
And killer singer too, man. That guy Skillet's a
he
rocking
is.
band, man.
Yeah. His that's my favorite. My favorite band is Skillet, hands down. As far as my favorite individual artist would be Crowder.
Oh yeah.
Obviously,
he's a good
another
guy too.
with another guy with an epic beard.
Yes.
I've had some chances to meet him. I've seen him at a few different shows and gotten really close, but never was able to time it out right where I was in the right spot at the right time.
Right. He's a nice guy too. I've gotten to meet him on a couple occasions. He's a really nice guy. Really nice guy.
Nice.
I was lucky enough to be in the music industry for a little while and got to meet a lot of these guys, and they're all very humble, very good, nice guys.
Yeah, we were at one of the Winter Jam shows where Skillet was headlining, and somebody, my kids were in line to get autographs, and I'm standing there pretty close. And I guess they get done with the concession, so they dump, they bring these big trays of French fries and set them, this kid ended up with one of these trays. So he's carrying it around with him. So he sets the tray down in front of Skillet at the table to get his thing he wants autographed. And John Cooper grabs one of the French fries and autographs the French fry and sets it back down. I thought that was priceless.
Awesome. That's awesome.
That was good. That was good stuff.
That is. Benny, plug it in. Thank you. Thank you for being on here today. This has been a lot of fun, man. We're going to have to get you back on here again.
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely.
It's just been a blast chatting with you. We're definitely going to get you back on here again, but we're hitting real close to an hour and 10 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and bring this to a close. But folks, if people want to get in touch with you, plug it in. What's the best way for people to find out more about you and what you do, and to get connected with the different things that you're all a part of with PTS and everything?
Well, all of my social media is easy to find. All you got to do is look up Plug It In Hikes. That's it. Plug It In Hikes. Social media, it's all right there. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Plug It In Hikes. I have a plugitinhikes.com. I have a blog. I need to get on there and actually do something on it.
Get the YouTube too.
Yeah, YouTube.
Which you have one of the coolest intros to your videos. That graphic where you're walking over it looks like you're walking over the camera, but it's all black and white and like cut out and everything. That is a really cool intro.
Yeah, mask that logo in there. That's really cool. And actually, Matt, I Am Details, designed my logo. So I absolutely love that.
That's awesome.
And, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I kind of took a little break from YouTube, but we're getting ready to get back at it.
Very cool.
But yeah.
Very cool. Thanks again, man. You have been a lot of fun to talk to, and we're definitely going to have to make this happen again. So
I'm game.
Awesome, man. Well, for the Backpacking Podcast, myself and Jeremiah, thank you guys for listening today, and we'll catch you on the next go-round.
Adios.